Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy episode 45. I am Jared. I am here with Britt. What is up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
And today we're doing a fun one. We're doing a full-on question and answer session. So you guys can ask us any questions that have been burning inwardly at any point in any way. So fire it away.
That is, yes. We are going to answer questions that I guess we'll answer as best we can.
Yeah, exactly. Now, no politics or anything like those questions. We're just going to have a nice, fun question. It doesn't necessarily have to be SuperWonder related, but whatever you guys want to know, let the questions fly.
Yeah, any type of entertainment, our favorite, I don't know, movie or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Anything you guys want for a question. Oh, goody. Hey, what's up, Batman's wife? Oh boy. That's I hope you're talking about Catwoman in terms of that that name. Anyway, first question, what is Jay Heat doing here? He's the SuperWonder hater. He tends to pop up places.
That's not fair. That's okay.
He jokes. He's joking. He's joking.
Yeah.
Jay Heat always jokes. Hey, what's up, Tevia? Yeah, so any questions you guys have, even about the new 52? Okay, what are your top 5 Superman and Wonder Woman villains?
So Wonder Woman is Cersei, Ares. Let me see. My top 5. I would have to say, honestly, if they made him a little bit more interesting, the Firstborn, because it had
they kind of expanded that idea a little bit.
A little, but they. Let me think. Well, you can go ahead, Jared.
Well, in terms of Wonder Woman, Ares, Cersei, Dr. Psycho, Dr. Cyber, and probably Giganta. In terms of Superman, it's Zod, Brainiac, Mongol. I'm going to count Darkseid since he showed up in the Superman the Animated Series, and probably Parasite. I like Parasite because he's a villain that Clark can't just punch.
Yeah, I would say with Wonder Woman, her villains, they tend to, okay, Dr. Psycho, that is, kind of misogynistic and everything like that. But I don't really count Cheetah too much anymore because of the back and forth of, trying to turn her into more of like Harley Quinn, Poison Ivy type.
Yeah.
Let me see. Who was it? Honestly, the gods too, just overall.
And they are very good. They are very, in terms of Wonder Woman relationship, they are very much villains. That is correct. Yeah. That's a good one. What are your thoughts? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Britt.
With Superman, it's basically the same as your list. Zod is overrated. Lex Luthor is overrated, but but you can make them, interesting. You have to really just dig deep because these are, 80-year old, characters. But yeah.
What are your thoughts on those that think that Wonder Woman should remain single because her being in a relationship goes against her mission?
Okay, so no, you can have a balance. The thing with Superman and Wonder Woman is that the world is on their shoulders, of course, because they are the most influential heroes. And you have to look at them more as how we look at ourselves. I mean, we do our jobs every day and we're able to have a family. So it's all about balance. But you can't be like Superman and he, deliberately chooses just to save one person and he feels like that's it over the world. So with Diana, I think that she knows more of her own priorities, and a relationship isn't exactly her priority. It's more like a secondary thing to her. And but she knows how to balance it. If she wants it, she will have it. If she doesn't, she doesn't.
Well,
So
remember,
any
isn't that also like one of the key points of like the Charles Sewell run in like the first volume is them trying to balance having a relationship and being superheroes?
right, and your relationships just overall, they can either be a liability or a strength. And it just all depends on how the love interests are written. And most of the time, Steve, he is written as very, very whiny, and
Yeah,
to a point
that's an
where
understatement.
to the point where Diana has to choose. And it's the same thing with Clark, is that he has to choose between Lois and, you know, being Clark Kent over Superman. And that was also explored in Our Worlds at War.
Which I loved. That was one of the best like Superman Wonder Woman moments ever. But Tevia asked question for Super Wonder: if you were able to combine, well, we wouldn't touch John Kent at all because in at least and Britt and I have been very clear on this. John Kent is redundant and he shouldn't even exist because Kryptonian and human DNA is like not compatible. So that I think that kind of answers that question.
Right. And combining them, I mean, that's really, it can't be possible because you have the narrative of an alien or Kryptonian and a human, and then you have a Kryptonian and a demigoddess Amazon. So that is two total different narratives and perspectives of um, how their worlds would be. Um, I
Exactly.
get I get what they try to do with John, but he it's a lot of things said about him more than shown. Like
Yes.
Tom Taylor's book, even having Diana as that mouthpiece of, he's going to be the greatest hero, even better than us. And it's kind of like, how does she know that? you know,
Exactly. And I did a video a couple of years ago because Tom Taylor came out and said, "Oh yeah, John's a better Superman than Clark is." And I'm like, I haven't seen that, dude.
right. It is what they try to do is sell the legacy characters as they will be better than, the previous generation of heroes. And while some of them can be the best or better, like Barry, he was dead for decades, and Wally was Flash. And so many people prefer Wally. But he has a story. He has a family that, he grew up with, and stability. John does not have that luxury because of all of the origin changes for him. I mean, he came from Convergence, then it was the Convergence spinoff, then it was Reborn, then it was Tom Taylor's book. So he doesn't have that stability for anyone to really care. And then the PR stunt of turning him bisexual, and that's what it was, a PR stunt. So it wasn't any type of substance, that went with it.
Yeah, exactly. Daniel says, if you guys ship Superman and Wonder Woman, why not ship Lex Luthor and Veronica Cale? Yeah, that's true because Veronica is pretty much Wonder Woman's Lex Luthor.
You know what? That is a very good storyline.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't say the thing is, we have to have Clark and Diana being, they have similarities, but also the differences. And with you trying to make their rogues kind of too similar, like, yeah, Veronica was kind of created as a female Lex Luthor. And it can be compelling, but it just depends on the writer. But yeah, with seeing, I wouldn't ship them together. But if they
Team
were
up.
to have teamed up, then I would definitely be interested in that storyline.
What about Alcyone from the Circle? That's an interesting Wonder Woman villain. Yeah, I remember that one. Cameron also asked, do you guys think if DC marketed Super Wonder as the refugee immigrant love story, it would have stuck around, or would still had lost to Lois? Still would have lost to Lois because the market
Yeah.
it. You still have the nostalgic people that thinks that Lois Lane invented Superman, or that
Yes, that
Superman was invented in the 80s, as Brit says on the show.
right. And the thing is, that is the one thing of why Super Wonder is no more, because Rebirth was for the more conservative meat and potatoes fan base that wanted the nuclear family, that wanted Superman to be more um, American in a sense, and uh, American flag waver. Um, Even Jeff Johns, he uh, he actually admitted that the election, how it all went about, determined the direction of Rebirth. So yes, they were very surprised that Super Wonder was a success, but at the same time, they wanted to sabotage it, and they were planning on doing that.
Exactly. That's all that Rebirth was. Tevia asked, question, if New 52 Superman did return and was alive like in the Sideways book, how would Wonder Woman react to his return? Here's the problem with that, Tevia. That happened after Superman Reborn, when they merged the two timelines. So I don't I get what you're asking. I don't think she would have the reaction of my love, because as far as she knew, with the whole timeline reset, they never were together.
Well, see, that is the messed up part of the timeline, is that their relationship was implied to be, you know, somewhere within this screwed up timeline. But to remember New 52 Superman is a toss up with that.
Exactly.
She really isn't even New 52 Wonder Woman. Honestly, you don't know who these characters are,
I
what
know.
iteration, because they tried to merge everything. You know, that is the difference between DC and Marvel. It's kind of like you can have this sliding time scale or whatever with Marvel, but DC, the writers have such different distinctive characterization for the characters that, yeah, this is why you have the multiverse. But when you try to combine it into one thing and, force this one path, then yeah, you just screw it all up.
Randy says, is it just me, or does it seem that every time they try and make Lois and Steve relevant, they make them both unlikable? Well, that's just Tom King for you. He makes a lot of characters unlikable. What about
Well,
Hyperion? Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Britt.
well, I mean, Steve and Lois, yeah, they have always been unlikable, but trying to make them relevant, um, especially in today's climate of people, you know, really um, giving themselves to diversity and
Mm-hmm.
things like that, and how and what Steve and Lois represent now. Yeah, they don't have any type of relevance, but you have to diminish something of Clark and Diana for them to be relevant. And Tom King pretty much showed that in the latest issue of Wonder Woman. I mean, yeah, I'm not over her eating a rat. That's just like, no.
And
And
I think
also
I liked it. I'm like, what
that
the hell am
in
I reading?
that in the just how to try to say that he's doing this grand um exploration of their relationship of like this long uh lasting love or whatever. And I'm like, where's the love? Because you
I'm not
have
seeing the
Diana
love.
saying yeah, you have Diana saying she loves him, but it's really not shown. And especially the fact of this is all in her head. So she is conjuring up a figment of her imagination. And what Steve is saying, she wants him to say. But in reality, he probably isn't saying it.
Yeah, and when you could argue, I was thinking about this yesterday, Britt, that this is the idealized version of Steve that she has in her head, not the way Steve actually is. So
Exactly.
if they played that off, that would be a cool story. How do you feel when Lois is Clark's connection to humanity. When I hear that, I start going, so we're forgetting Pa, Ma, Lana, the entirety of Smallville. Exactly, because they're forgetting that he was Superman. Like this way, if they always hold up John Byrne's Man of Steel as the best version of Superman's origin story, which John Byrne, anything is not good. But my point is, when you're going off of that, even in that origin story, Clark was Superman before he met Lois.
Right. And again, it just goes to trying to make her relevant. And honestly, she becomes more of a plot device and definitely lacks agency and just being a character on her own. And we saw that in New 52 with her not being the wife or the love interest. Lois is very much in the background and she doesn't have a compelling story. Yes, she is a reporter, but no one cares, you
Exactly.
know. So trying to big her up and sell this story, the only way you can sell her as this big time reporter is if she's with Superman.
Exactly. And Daniel says, if Superman and Wonder Woman became an official canon couple, does that mean that that each other will become the sidekick in each other's comics? No, because they did that in the New 52 and it didn't happen. Yeah, they showed up in each other's comics. They kind of have to because they're both each other's love interests. But when they showed up, it was a partnership because neither of them are the damsel in this situation. Here's the difference between this between like Superman being with Wonder Woman than with Lois. He doesn't necessarily have to save her. He just shows up and goes, "Hey, you want to punch this guy with me?"
Right. And if you want to even go back to post crisis, when they had so many crossovers together, just even as best friends, and some are better than others, some are we don't want to mention, but at the same time, if you can have a crossover of them as best friends, and it doesn't, we would rather lean on the 99% chance or 100% chance that neither one is diminished, then you can have that with them as a couple. And that's the thing is that these two are two separate franchises. So it goes beyond just having them as a couple in comics. It also goes within the wider marketing. And that is something right now that DC is too lazy to do.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. What's another question we have here? Oh yeah. So, Jared, Britt, have you guys read 1998 Destined Fires? I haven't.
I have.
Okay.
And it is, of course, it's apocalyptic story. Um, it's very interesting. You had Billy as an adult, and he
Oh
was very
yeah.
he was jealous, and Clark and Diana got together. A civil war. They got married. She had a child. Civil war. Planet destruction. The kid was named, I think, Bruce, and he became a Green Lantern. So the the story has its problems, of course, because jealous Billy, I always think of him as like their little brother and a 15-year-old. So trying to have him in this jealous ex or romance with Diana, even if she is immortal, that doesn't sit well with me. But everything else as a tragic story is just fine.
Exactly. Tavius does question. Speaking of Veronica Cale, that reminds me, if she's supposed to be Wonder Woman's Lex Luthor, why hasn't DC used her of late? Because Wonder Woman editorial apparently thinks she had only the gods, maybe Cersei, and maybe like Grail are her villains. They don't properly use all the awesome villains she has.
That and with Tom King, he said that he had like a list of characters and what he wanted within the book. And it seemed like he mostly wanted to disregard like 95% of Wonder Woman's lore and just
Yep,
make it his own thing.
that's what Tom
So,
King does. So
right. So, with her rogue gallery, that is basically why they don't get the recognition that they should have because they are powerful. beings, and especially with Diana, of being of playing it with the goddess of truth, of playing her with her, you know, ability to rehabilitate her own villains, that they are magical. So, and they can be a bigger threat than even Superman villains, because he does have a weakness to magic. And then what is Batman gonna do? So I think that because she is a female character, and it's already difficult for characters to grasp her character, they can't grasp her villains or her supporting cast to even make them interesting too and connect it all together.
Exactly. Daniel says, question, why do you guys believe DC Comics does not have the balls to make Super Wonder the official DC couple? It's easy. Nostalgia.
And as I said earlier, it more so has to do with the fact that they are two separate franchises. Yes, they
Mhm.
are DC's brand of characters, but it's still, within the marketing. And it is a double standard and very hypocritical and contradictory because DC does market them as a couple outside, like you see t-shirts and everything like that. But legally and contractually and everything, it's just a lot of red tape. So it can be a couple that last for so long, but they do have to revert back.
Exactly.
Although they can have them as a marketing couple, they can do that. And they can just shift them to Elseworlds.
Exactly. Quentin asks, how do you think DC Absolute will go? Well, okay. The question is, as long as the potential is there. My concern is that you'll have too many writers that'll come in, want to write for Superman. Like they'll have a great like let's say they do Super Wonder and DC Absolute. Let's say we somehow get a miracle. But the thing is, what if they do that, but then a writer comes in and wants to write a Superman and Lois story, can't because like let's say someone else is writing Superman, so they figure, oh, I'm going to bring that to the Ultimate Universe. So you have to have someone in there to say, no, you can't do this because it interferes with the canon we want to do. That was the problem with the new 52 because you had guys like Jurgens going, I don't want to write this. Then I'm like, then don't write Superman.
Right. You have to have editorial that can stick to a plan and communicate most of all. And also, yeah, the storylines, they have to keep momentum. If you lose that, then it all falls apart. So
Exactly.
with this absolute event building up to whatever else they'll have, it's not going too well. DC obviously hasn't learned their lesson. They're still trying to have their cake and eat it too, while also alienating so many new fans or the fans that they still have with this certain the writer's comfort that Joshua Williamson, he writes Superman in like the 90s animated show. He is basically baiting with nostalgia. um Action Comics is just it's basically an anthology, it seems like. Tom King is Tom King on Wonder Woman. And Batman, I have no idea what's happening in Batman. It's
It's
you make
very
him
strange. I
yeah.
think I think Ram V is gonna be leaving Detective, which I'm like, thank God, because here's the problem. I like it. The problem is it's confusing as hell.
Yeah, he wanted to be poetic, but
Hmm.
the thing is, unless you have literature fans, that isn't going to resonate with comic fans. So trying to write it in a very poetic type way, they wouldn't get it. Um, I do like that what DC tried to do is have in Detective Comics have him with Talia, for a little time, and then he's sort of, getting back with Selena. So, making fans happy a little bit with certain things, that is the reason why Batman is so, even though, sales are awful right
Hmm.
now, it's still the fact that Batman can, do these a multitude of things to keep things afloat.
Yeah, exactly. John Jones, hey, what's up, Martian Manhunter? Actually says that's the problem with DC. A lot of characters are all talk. No one actually proves themselves. Yes, exactly. Lat asks, who's your favorite Super Wonder child? That is a good question.
Ha, my own.
Well, yeah,
Um,
ours. Yeah, yeah. Can we do the ones from the Shelterverse?
right.
But if I had to go with canon, I would probably go with John and Lara from DK3.
Yeah, I would say them because it, Frank Miller's verse is very controversial. And like I always think of it as Batman's perspective. So the kids are going to have this mm, dominance to them because of their upbringing, which is being hidden away from the US government. And the Golden Child, that really showed the complexity and the kind of story of having that inner conflict. And again, you're bringing back that immigrant refugee type story for now Clark and Diana's kids.
Yeah, exactly. So then what's the next question? Tevia asks, okay, speaking of New 52 Sue and Wonder Woman, that reminds me, if you were able to somehow fix the truth arc from DCU era and make the story good, how would you do it? Well, for one thing, not have Peter J. Tomasi write the book. That's the first thing. I think you can head off a lot of issues there. But not make Clark such a douche, I think.
I honestly, a part of me is like, wouldn't have had it at all. But
Yeah,
then but the other side is if you want to explore his secret identity being out, they had the right consequences of, being fired from the Daily Planet, the mob and everything like that, going against officers, protecting the what was he? Was he in Metropolis or wherever he was? That was good, but yeah, Tomasi, his part of the drama didn't make sense, and even if he wanted to protect Diana, he could have spoke to her like an adult instead
yeah,
of
exactly.
getting angry at her when she was trying to protect him. It
Instead of
more
like a
so made it
hormonal teenager.
right, and it more so made it seem like he was too prideful, which Superman is never prideful. So to make him act like that, and he had this sort of feel good of everyone, hanging off his shoulder. I think in issue 22, when everyone was rescued from the jail cell or whatever, and he felt like he was the hero again. But it's like you can still be a hero. It's just that you need the help. So I feel like Tomasi just really took what Charles Soule built and he wanted to destroy it in a way of Clark and Diana always have each other's backs. But and it's never a power scale, or it's never Clark feeling like he has to be the hero or the savior. It's just them, you know, being who being their shelter, for each other.
Yeah.
And so for Tomasi to ruin that, yeah, that's why it would lead me to just don't do the storyline at all.
Exactly. John Jones asked, "Do you think we could get a Super Wonder cartoon out there like Adventures Superman?" What do you think?
Um, well, no, because with James Gunn wanting to streamline everything and basically is going to be Gunverse in animation, live action, and gaming, unless Clark and Diana are somehow a couple, that is the only way we can probably get that. But also, if he okays Elseworlds, which it seemed like he isn't going to do.
Yeah. It also see, the problem with Gunn is that he keeps contradicting himself, like where he goes, okay, this stuff is canon, but this stuff is canon. Sees part of season 1 is canon, Peacemaker, but part isn't. I'm like, you really expect the general audience to track that? But anyway, Quentin asks, how would the Kents and Hippolyta get along?
Oh, that is a wonderful question because I love that. First, Martha would love to show Hippolyta every recipe that she can think of at the moment. And it will be a little intimidating because you're, meeting a queen. But I believe that Hippolyta will be very, humbled and interested in the ways of Smallville.
Yeah,
And she would, the fact that she knows Clark is like, well, these are the people who raised him. So of course, if he is, worthy of my daughter, and I trust him, obviously I can trust, the people who raised him.
exactly. I feel the same way. And I think that'd be a fantastic interaction, particularly in like our world where Clark and Diana are together. And by John Jones brings up a good point about the Tom King run. I felt more love between Diana and Clark in the recent run than with Steve. Yeah, I'm sorry. That Wonder Woman
Right.
issue 7 issue, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you're trying to make me like her with Steve, you did a better job making me like her with Clark.
Right. I would I still maintain that issue 7, it wasn't how you like oversell something, how he, says that it's going to be a deep dive into their friendship. I Where's the deep
It wasn't. I
dive?
expect
So
it's kind of funny. If they wanted to do a deep dive, they could have done flashbacks to like their history together, like they kind of did in the next issue when like they are homaging like sacrifice and such.
exactly, or even if he wanted to do the Super Friends arc over, you had Batman and Superman talking about each other, showing their differences and similarities and really acting like brothers. So with Clark and Diana, I would think that you would have them do the same of talking about each other and what they mean. But instead, he implemented the Trinity as a whole instead. And it's kind of like, no, this is supposed to be about Clark and Diana's relationship. But at the same time, the reason why it's limited, of course, is that half of their relationship does implement a romance. And Tom King is too much of a traditionalist, it looks like, to be objective about it.
Yeah, exactly. Tevia asks, speaking of Clark and Diana, do you think this couple in Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3 will survive at the end of the trilogy or not happening? Our hope is that they have a happy ending. That's our hope, Tevia.
Right. I mean, you don't have to kill them off. I don't see the reason why. It's just they are immortal.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, they should be able to have a happy ending, or and I think that is how Crisis um, ends anyway. Of that, everyone comes back and they have that happy ending.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Let's see. What is? Let me. Going back to my next questions. Oh, by the way, John Jones has a good point. The only way they can make Steve and Lois relevant is by trying to tear down Diana and Clark. Reeks of insecurity. Yep, it does. Definitely does.
Exactly.
Randy asked, "Do you guys think Scott Snyder would take the popularity of Superman and Wonder Woman into consideration with his new universe?" Possible. Here's why I say possible. Because again, here's the difference between this and the new 52. This is not replacing the prime universe as far as we know, and at this moment this is an Elseworlds, so they could go in this direction, say, hey, here's a great way to separate this from the main line, because you can have Chloe in the main line and then just have us have the infinitely more popular ship in the absolute universe.
Right, but I think that it, Scott Snyder is too much of a Bat fanboy, so it's a very slim chance.
And here's the other issue: when you read Superman Unchained, he basically pushed Clark and Lois together and kind of downplayed and kind of had like Wonder Woman with Batman. But I'm like, wait a second here.
Exactly. And he, I think, admitted it at some point that he did want to. It was pretty much out of spite that because New 52 had Clark and Diana, he wanted to try, Diana with Bruce, but it didn't work, of course.
Yeah,
So,
because
I mean, he did
outside of the
that,
cartoon, where you butcher Wonder Woman, it doesn't work.
and he did in Death Metal with the dark multiverse or whatever it's called,
Oh yeah.
you know. Yeah, so I mean, even that story with the Merciless, Diana died. Like you took away her agency for a Batman. So, anytime anyone wants to say that Clark and Diana being with Clark takes away, anything from her, actually look at the stories that does take away her agency.
Yeah, exactly. Nickname asks, if Batman and Superman are called the world's finest, what would you call Superman and Wonder Woman if they have their adventure comics? Power couple.
Right. It's just power couple. And
That's all you need.
that is the name that they have. I mean, you can Google it and Google power couple
Or
and
the
Superman and Wonder Woman,
Lovebirds.
lovebirds, yeah. Um, those will come up, you know. And it's kind of crazy that DC tries to have that, for other couples, but it just does not take.
Yeah, exactly. And let's see, what's another good question I'm going through here? I'm just going through the questions to ask. I'm trying to stay caught up in the overall chat as well. And what's up, RJ? Excelsior, probably the wrong catchphrase for a DC convo, but hey, we'll take it, dude. We will take it. Let's see what else. What's our next question? Okay, Daniel asks, "What do you guys think of the upcoming Kingdom Come documentary?" Yes, yes. It's
Well,
yeah. Go ahead.
it is basically telling the story, of course, like the DC story on HBO Max that obviously no one wanted to watch. So hopefully people will watch Kingdom Come, and apparently it's just to talk about the making of it, to talk about the characters, and I really hope that Mark Wade that he doesn't chicken out, and in a sense of like at some point he feels like he's for the story because of what it is, but then when you have certain fans complain, he like I said, chickens out about it.
He'll
So
say whatever
I
he
would
has
hope,
to stay relevant.
right. So I hope that he is just celebratory about the story. I mean, even with James Gunn, the fact that it's using the insignia um, of the KC suit, he feels very proud now of the story and everything like that. So as long as he's getting like his own kudos about it, then he's a-okay.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and real quick, I want to clear this up. NZO214 says, "Aren't Superman and Wonder Woman a couple in Justice?" Yeah, but that's an evil Wonder Woman, so it doesn't really count.
That is Cersei.
Yeah, again, they had the perfect opportunity to retcon that was Cersei the entire time. They can even make it where it was like Cersei was using magic to manipulate Clark and make him go down this dark path. Like all of the killings were Cersei influencing Clark. You could have completely like redeemed Clark, but
Yeah,
no.
but and also it is nether realms, and I think I said this before, but it's the fact of they have an issue with female characters, and they want to turn the male characters into like sympathetic beings, and the female character is the true villain of the story.
Exactly. Atchison says, question, why does everyone love to ignore the fact that even in the post-crisis pre-Flashpoint timeline, Clark and Diana had feelings for each other and never stopped having feelings for each other? And on that, whenever they were in a situation where their true desires were shown, but both of them, it was together.
Yeah, well, the reason why people want to ignore it is because obviously it would ruin the narrative that they want to push, that it's always been Lois or so. Well, Steve, we know that he was an old man, so that goes away. But it's mainly on Superman's part because he was married that it's like they wanted to. Okay, so with Post Crisis, it was Clark always pursued Diana first, and even within New 52. But when they want to transition to him having feelings for Lois, they turn it around and make it seem like Diana is the one that was, you know, into Clark first. And I think that's very unfair. So, and that's the same thing they did with the animation, how Clark was so cold to Diana when he got with Lois. But yeah, the reason why they ignored is because, like I said, the narrative that they want to push that, Superman and Wonder Woman has never been a have this romantic type feeling. It's always been platonic, even to a point of saying that they're like siblings or something. You
They're
know,
they're not. They're not.
yeah.
They're 100. If they're siblings, then they're of the. They have a very weird definition of what siblings is. Let me put it to you
Very
that way.
much Sweet Home
I love where
Alabama.
Wonder Woman 800 came out and it was Clark and Diana hovering and like basically almost kissing, and people like, no, they're holding each other very platonically. I'm like, what about this is platonic?
Right. If you think that that was platonic or sibling-like or something like that, something is very
Clark
wrong
and
with
Diana were
you.
staring at each other, like, and Clark was like, so much beauty as he's staring at her. Yeah,
Right. And
then he
his
platonic.
and also his hand placement is kind of a little bit too far up. You can really dissect the panels of that story. And also when um Bertel, when she posted it, she only posted it the middle panel. So everyone, of course, thought that it was some type of a romantic flashback or something like that. So yeah, for you to have that first initial thought and then but you want to twist it in a way of it's just platonic, it's just that you're in denial. And you don't have to like the ship or anything like that, but the whole denial thing or labeling as something that is obviously not, you don't have to do that.
Exactly. Cameron asks, "Do you guys think we'll see the world's finest in the new DCU? Because I'm tired of them fighting. They're supposed to be brothers. No one can convince me Injustice ruined that bromance for good." Well, first off, it wasn't just Injustice that ruined that. It was Dark Knight Returns because that was popular. They were like, okay, so Batman and Superman hate each other and have to fight all the time. I'm like, no, they not. But honestly, first off, no, because I'm still not convinced that it's going to get past Superman because the minute no matter what anyone tells you on the internet, I'm going to give you a little piece of advice. If this movie, I honestly think if this movie does not make more than Man of Steel, I honestly could see them chalking this up to a financial failure as a flop and then telling James Gunn, get out. We're done. We're retooling DC. Or, and here's the sad truth. If this movie is not popular, they could like say, okay, we're not going to really invest that much in the DC in general because the audience is tired of it.
I mean, I really just don't understand why so many obscure characters are having like projects before Wonder Woman.
I know, right? Isn't that kind of Blue Beetle is getting an animated series now?
And that movie flopped. Like,
That
why
movie
are you?
flopped bad.
Yeah, so why are you rewarding? And I mean, DC has done that for a very long time. They reward mediocrity all the time. But when you know that is a known failure, why keep pushing it? And then
Because
the
James
fact
Gunn.
that yeah, the fact that James Gunn pitched um the
Creature
creatures or whatever,
Commandos.
yeah, it, and because he pitched it, and then as soon as he became, head of DC Studios, um, he greenlit it himself because it was rejected. And
I'm
it's kind
like,
of like, yeah, he's really showing.
well, here's the thing. That's kind of concerning because I'm like, Warner Brothers, the studio known for making really, 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 really bad decisions. Why would they reject that?
It just feels like what WB has their own faults, and the way DC EU was mangled, again, that is their fault. But at at the same time, because your brand is so damaged, you would want your A-listers. So the fact that James Gunn, he pitched the C-listers and the obscure characters. He even wanted a crypto movie. He didn't want a Superman movie at first. Um, so yeah, and to put him as leader, and he's really showing his bias by um, casting his friends and everything like that, and showing the characters that he mostly enjoy. Um, when they first announced the new DCU, they said, or Zaslav, he said that the main characters would be Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman,
Mm-hmm.
and they would be leads, but the other C-listers will basically ride their coattails. But the fact that you have, again, these obscure characters being leads instead of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, that really doesn't make sense. And even Batman is starting out with Damian already.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
like, I remember when they tried this in the new 52 and it didn't go so well. So I'm like, what? But by the way, so it's kind of funny is someone brought up someone in the comments I saw. Have you guys ever seen Wonderbat fans clash with Batcat fans? That must be a battle, the battle for the ages.
that is honestly, I mean, you can't really. Um, the thing is, with that battle, there's no battle because Batman and Wonder Woman has never had a relationship. So,
Mhm.
everything that they really use is only JLU. And it's only like what, like three specific GIFs that I see repeated. Um, you really would have a better chance at a Talia versus Selena argument than anything else. So yeah, it's pretty entertaining in the fact of, you know, I saw someone call Superman and Wonder Woman fans delusional, but it's like you are very delusional to think that Batman and Wonder Woman have, the amount of history that Superman and Wonder Woman have.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. I mean, because I'm sorry. No matter what anyone tries to tell you, Wonder Woman and Batman do not have this big relationship that like Clark and Diana have. There's nowhere. That's why when Tom King plagiarized the Immortal Beloved storyline, it didn't work as well because they don't have this romantic relationship or like this even romantic hinting relationship.
That and the fact that Tom King, like, with the original Immortal Beloved, I can't stand that story in the first place. So, um, I mean, it's a very low bar, but with that story, you saw Clark's confliction and that he did have feelings for Diana. Now, what's overboard is thinking that 1,000 years and you're still loyal to someone, and it's
Yeah,
like
when as
she's
far as
dead.
you know, she's dead.
And not only that, but I think um like the secondary plot was, I think Lois was like keeping a secret or lying to Clark. So it's like you have Clark trying to be loyal to Lois over here when he's with a woman that obviously he does have feelings for, and even in the beginning of the story, how Clark was going to say he felt different with uh confiding in Diana than he could with Lois. So you have that over on one side. Then you have Lois constantly like being very selfish, and she keeps her own secrets, and just the unethical, way about her as being this reporter and everything like that, that she would do anything for a story and disregards everyone else, just like how she did in Heroes in Crisis.
Yeah, exactly. Well, also, here's why I love Heroes in Crisis. It's a character assassination on Lois because she basically doxes superheroes. So I'm like, okay, it's the one time Tom King did something I like. I really appreciate that.
Right,
But
and
yeah, go ahead.
and going back to Tom King's plagiarized version,
Hmm.
he made Diana into a temptress. He purposely made her like seduce Bruce. And it was kind of like, why would you do that? Um, so that was much more humiliating and very disrespectful to her because you purposely went out of your way to have her as this seductress. And then at the end, you have Diana telling him, or telling Selena how she is worthy of Bruce and everything like that. And it just was very unnecessary. And also, the story was supposed to be of Hal Jordan as a bachelor party. So just because the artist didn't want to draw Hal Jordan, honestly, I would have said, well, I'll switch artists and do the Hal Jordan story. I wouldn't go out of my way to plagiarize the story and make it worse.
No, there's a really easy way you could tell those stories. By the way, Tevia asked a really good question. Um, Speaking of evil Superman and evil Wonder Woman, that reminds me, any favorite versions of evil Superman and Wonder Woman versions you like? Their parodies, like The Boys. I don't like it because honestly, all it does is it perpetuates that stereotype that like injustice started.
Exactly. Any evil Superman and Wonder Woman is just so overrated, and it honestly needs to die down because you are damaging the real characters, and so many people are not knowing the difference between what's canon and Elseworlds. So
Exactly.
because Injustice was a popular video game turned um, comic, they think that the comic is canon when it's actually in Elseworlds.
John Young says, thanks to Bruce Timm's DCAU, I'm a fan of Batman. Wonder Woman, do you think it will happen? Nope. Nope. Not going to happen. Because here's the other thing. Anytime DC has had the opportunity to explore that, it has fallen apart. Plus, here's the thing. In that universe, they butchered Wonder Woman. Butchered her. To the point where it's not even Wonder Woman. So it's most likely not going to happen.
That and he's introducing Damian. So
Mm-hmm.
and I believe
Talia.
that yeah, he did like a on threads about Bruce and Talia. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. By the way, but Batman's wife also brings up it also makes you look at Hippolyta differently with Wonder Woman and Batman. If you know that Greg Rucka was shipping them in 2000s, but here's the interesting thing about that. If you're paying attention to the detail, okay, but Batman's wife, flip through Hippolyta again. There's a panel there. And it's the most hilarious thing. I noticed this the first time I read it. There's a panel there of Wonder Woman walking. She's holding a coffee cup. She's holding a Superman coffee cup. I'm just saying.
Oh yeah, that is funny. That is very I mean, we don't know if that was the artist though, because I doubt that
Mhm.
Rucka would, you know, want that because he was very much wanting to change the Trinity dynamic. Even well, I can't say his name, but the second attempt of Truth, um, when Rucka wrote the one shot, and he made it more about Bruce sulking and Diana. It seemed like she was trying to flirt and failing, and she was hovering over Bruce and everything like that. And it's like, this is not about you trying to have Diana as play this nurse or whatever to Bruce. This is about them as friends talking about Clark revealing his identity again, and also the difference between Bruce calling him Clark, Diana calling him Cal. But it's also a missed opportunity to really show how, because Diana lives in truth, and she really didn't have a secret identity within Rebirth, then show her, you know, um, her reaction. We didn't get her reaction. If anything, within the promo, it showed her like scalding or something.
Exactly. By the way, the other thing Cameron brings up, I remember asking my friend who's a huge Wonderbat fan, why do you ship them? He literally told me because she's the princess to his prince. It took all my strength I had not to strangle him. And I have this to respond.
Batman doesn't do ships.
Yeah, or even the princess and the knight type thing. If you say that Superman and Wonder Woman is shallow, yeah, that is even more shallow.
If anyone's
Because
as honorable as a knight, it's Clark, first off. So thank you.
right, but also Diana does not care for the princess status. If she cared, she would have stayed on Themyscira. So to even though some people call her princess, and it's either in endearment or it is to like in a sarcastic vain type way, but she does not care for royalty. She does not care for luxuries. So trying to put her with Bruce, that's all you see her as this princess that wants the luxuries. She's not Selena. You know, if Diana wanted the luxuries, she would have stayed on Themyscira because it's Paradise Island. She has everything that she would ever need there. Why would she care for what Bruce has?
Well,
You
yeah,
know,
and according to John Jones, Tom King basically used Wonder Woman as a measuring stick for Bruce's or S test for Bruce's loyalty. I know, right? Why is Diana used that in this way when it's like how Tom King goes, "I want you to believe that Wonder Woman's awesome." Really? Because you're making me dislike the character.
right. Well, again, he plagiarized the story, and that is the same thing um, that the original story did. It was to measure the loyalty of Clark. But the thing is, with that story, is that Clark and Diana did have feelings for each other. But
Hmm.
in ironically, the same writer of Immortal Beloved wrote within it was the same time period, I believe, as the animation too. So of course they wanted to push Wonderbat. So you have uh, Clark basically, um, in a sense, repressing or um, rejecting or denying his feelings for Diana and wanting to friend zone her, even though within the story it was built up that he was having feelings for her. And of course, like how we always say, it's a bait and switch. But at the same time, you have um, Joe Kelly writing like uh, Batman and Wonder Woman trying to be a couple, and Diana, I think, dreaming about how they can be a couple or whatever. Yeah, so it very much you had these writers trying to make Wonderbat work at the expense of Diana. And also you have the expense of her relationship with Clark that has a much solid foundation.
Exactly. By Atchison says, question, would you guys ever do an episode breaking down CBR screenwrite articles about Clark and Diana's relationship or even the new 52? Funny you should mention that. Episode 52 will be, first off, the 1 year anniversary of the show, and we will be devoting it purely to the new 52. So absolutely we can do that.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
And with breaking down the articles, most of those articles are written by biased fans. So there's really no point in, you know, trying to argue with them, especially CBR. That
Hmm.
is, um, if you go to the forum, you will see that it's very scarce of people, and it is mostly the same people repeating the same things. Reddit, you have people bashing others if they don't have the same thought alignment. So yeah, we really don't have to go through those articles because it's pointless. And given that, I think it was reported that CBR's articles are now AI generated, definitely, we definitely
Yeah.
do not have to go through those.
And Tevia, yeah, there's not enough in this list for us to do a good episode on that. But by the way, you think we can make Super Wonder a thing if in the future we all become writers? Oh yeah, well, if Brit and I ran DC, it would be fixed inside of a year. We could definitely repair the entire company. And real quick, there was one other question that I had that I wanted to answer and make sure that we got on here. And by you guys are sending fantastic questions, keep them coming. It's if you see me like scrolling through, it's because I'm trying to to try and get like most of these answered. There's like a lot. Really appreciate it,
Yeah.
guys. Wait, um, let me see. I'm trying to find. There was one other really good question. So let me see. And by the way, but Batman's wife, that whole thing about Bruce Timm never liking Wonderbat. He was one of the heads of the show. You can't tell me he couldn't have vetoed that. You can't tell me that. I think that's more Eisenberg trying to run interference for Bruce Timm because everyone knows that the man is the worst at shipping characters, a la The Killing Joke. So there
Well,
is that.
actually, I believe Eisenberg, she had asked Bruce Timm when they were doing Fatal Five.
Mm-hmm.
She was basically, joked and said that she was being annoying, and she was asking, about pairing Bruce with Diana. And yeah, Bruce Timm said no. So I think that with having Eisenberg and all these other writers, um, you know, uh, basically putting Tim under the with his back against the wall, he just like forget it, go ahead and do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's just the fact that Eisenberg as a Wonder Woman voice, how that's the only thing that she cares about. Even in I believe it was Gods and Mortals,
Yeah.
that Bruce Timm produced. That Wonder Woman and Superman were a very dysfunctional couple. So that was, something. Um, and then even with Red Sun, that wasn't so much as Tim. That was more so the writer's choice for Diana, which is okay. Because the story of her pining after Clark and just diminishing her like that, I wouldn't want that either to be adapted. So yeah, I think that Bruce Timm, his only problem really is the Bruce and Barbara relationship. But again, even the Bruce and Barbara relationship was introduced, in um, pre-crisis. So, and she was closer to Bruce's age.
Yeah. Randy says, has any of the Clovis fans called out DC for the drowned storyline and how bad it made their ship look? Yeah, exactly. Britt and I talk about this all the time, but that really destroyed Lois.
Oh no, you're definitely not going to get. If anything, they praise any story of Clark choosing to save Lois over anyone else. So there's not going to be anything, um, really, except for Tom King, Heroes in Crisis, that whole thing. But what I saw with Chloe's fans with that storyline was that they were saying that Clark was being loyal to his wife. So he put his marriage over everyone else's safety and, and being a journalist. And I think that already they are very unethical because it's not disclosed that he's Superman. and she's been getting, stories from him for decades. Even I think it was Dan Jurgens that wrote it, but she said that she has a source. And they asked her who is her source. And she said it's a kept secret. And her source is Superman. So it's kind of like, this whole thing of them being like these great reporters, that is diminished when they, have them being so unethical and secretive, you know, and it's not even about protection, it's just more so of them, especially with Lois, wanting that, recognition as the best reporter.
Exactly. John Jones asks, when you think about the recent Super Wonder Kiss and the Tomorrowverse and now a Kingdom Come documentary, do you think they're subtly trying to bring Super Wonder back into relevance? That's a good question, and I've wondered that myself because yeah, it is suspicious that they put it in like basically the Tomorrowverse, and we saw Superman and Wonder Woman kiss before we saw Clark and Lois, even though Clark and Lois was done off screen. You know how it annoys me, because here's the thing: it's like normally DC is like it can never show up under any circumstances.
Okay, so here's the timeline. I'm gonna make this as quick as possible.
Okay.
So with Rebirth, 2016, they wanted to have synergy between DCEU and the comics. Pretty much how Gunn is trying to do. So every relationship is all the same. And you had Jeff Johns in control. And there was sort of this mandate of Clark and Diana being distant from each other. It wasn't in 2018 when they completely just uh, bulldozed over everything, and Rucka, Jurgens, and Tomasi, really took joy in that. Um, it was really a time of these writers just you know, showing themselves in a bad way. But then you have after 2018, I believe it was 2019 when they announced the Golden Child,
Hmm.
that to see that it's going to sell because it is Dark Knight Returns, a spinoff of that. But it's the fact that it did sell that I think that they shifted a little bit. So then we have, I think in 2020, it was Wonder Woman Black and Gold, and we had two stories there. Then we had 2021 of Immortal Wonder Woman. Um, and Conrad, his inspiration was New Frontier and Clark and Diana's relationship there. Of so that was, a plus. I don't really know about 2022. I don't think so. It was here and there. Um, and then you had 2023 of uh, Wonder Woman 800. So you have these little crumbs. It's a cycle. You have Superman and it's a cycle and a roller coaster. Superman and Wonder Woman is distant because they're trying to push Chloe as this uh, number one couple. When that doesn't work and sales go down, they end up having crumbs of Superman and Wonder Woman. That's basically what it is. So now that sales are as bad as they are, we might see more Clark and Diana, but it'll be very, crummy in a way, and a possible Elseworld. So that's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah, it can. I mean, it depends on who's really working on it, because we're talking about Charles Sewell working on it. Yeah. By the way, so Bruce asks, I must be truthful in this. I'm getting really sick of the skirt on Wonder Woman now. I really miss the blue star spangled underwear in her. Does anyone else miss it? I mean, here's the thing, Bruce. Here's why I'm more in favor of like the way she is now, because she's a warrior and she wears armor. I don't think the spandex necessarily works with Diana because of her culture, her warrior culture.
For me, I can go either way, but
Mhm.
I care more for Diana's free spirit. And even though she's a warrior, she still is a goddess, and she can wear anything. She can wear nothing at all and still fight in battle.
I'm sure Clark would
So
be very happy about that.
so honestly, I do prefer the classic look because it was a symbol of liberation and
Mhm.
of female empowerment. Even though some, like Christopher Priest, how in Superman Lost, he said that he used Lois as a mouthpiece, really, and had her say that she didn't like Diana, and maybe it was because of the bathing suit, and how you had different female characters at that just call it a bathing suit. But who Wonder Woman is, again, she is the embodiment of female empowerment and liberation. So her within in the battle suit and with trying to just make her a warrior, she is so much more than that. So she can go
Here's
either
a
way.
comment I think you'd enjoy, Britt. Leotard all the way. She's the comic book Beyonce.
Yes. Honestly, see what you brought that up, so I have to talk about it. So there was gonna be a Beyonce was interested in playing Wonder Woman. And the reason why she wore leotards is because of Wonder Woman. So yeah, if you had that influence on such a megastar in an influential way, then it it has its impact. And I want to see it back. And it is back
Exactly.
in World's Finest.
Batman's wife asks, do you all like Hippolyta as Wonder Woman of the JSA? I personally hate that retcon. I don't like it because the way I see it, Wonder Woman should be the first Amazon to leave the island. I don't. It kind of undermines. I mean, I just don't like it. I don't think in that
Yeah,
sense.
it undermines Diana being Wonder Woman. And
Hmm.
you turn her into a legacy character. Wonder Woman isn't a legacy character, Superman isn't a legacy character. Batman can go either or, but he like 99% is not a legacy of a legacy character. So with trying to have Hippolyta and the way her story is, it's like you're undercutting both. And it is showing how there's a reason why um, Hippolyta she didn't trust man's world and why she stayed on the island herself, or why even in Perez how she was reincarnated and stayed on the island, and Diana being the one that was curious to be the ambassador and for her to explore the world and see its changes. If you have Hippolyta, there's no point in Diana. So yeah, that whole retcon, but I mean, it's pretty much has been retcon itself, I
Yeah.
guess.
Lord Zed asks, for Britt and Jared, what anime have you seen and what anime do you plan on watching? All right, I've watched Attack on Titan. I don't know if like Halo Legends, the Mass Effect anime, if any of those tie-in animes count, but I've watched those. I've watched Pokemon and Digimon, if those count. And yeah, that's about all of the anime that I've watched. How about you, Britt?
So, of course, I'm the anime queen. Um,
Of course.
um, so the current one that I'm watching is on Hulu, and it's called Loser Ranger.
Hmm.
It's pretty good. Um, Other than that, they're mostly um kind of outlandish. There is one called Psycho Princess, and
Just the titling on these is hilarious.
and it is a spy family, and honestly, it's very random. I love anime, but it has to really like have a catch my eye. And if it's a long, like a lot of seasons, I don't really care for it. So if it's 12 episodes or whatever, I like that. And so far, the best one right now is Loser Ranger on Hulu.
We did a news episode, a Comics League Dark episode where we all talked about our favorite anime. And I remember that's really funny. So my friend Nick is describing to me the plot of Student Teacher, and you could see me like descending into madness. Like, what the hell am I listening to?
The thing is with anime is, yeah, you're definitely going to have a lot of uncomfortable moments, you know, um, and plot points and also character designs. That is the one thing that kind of irks me with my adventures with Superman because they are using the most like those type of character
The
designs
worst
and
character
story tropes.
designs ever.
Yeah, so I mean, it it has its audience on Twitter, but it has the Twitter audience that made you uncomfortable talking about that sort of, storyline.
I half expected Chris Hansen to show up and start talking to me. But anyway, Atchison question: who are your favorite Marvel couples? Mine are Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive, Daredevil and Elektra. So I like Daredevil and Elektra, Thor and Lady Sif. I like Scott and Emma. I like Spider-Man and Mary Jane. Suck that Marvel editorial. I like Captain America, but Bucky Barnes and Black Widow. And I honestly could also like Iron Man and Emma Frost. How about you, Britt?
I don't really know of the relationship history, but with X-Men 97, I really love Gambit and Rogue. Like
Yeah,
that is
mon
they are
ami.
such a sweet, tragic like couple that play off each other so well. So pretty
Particularly
much
that damn ending.
right. So pretty much the only couple that I really, really like out of Marvel and can, see myself following is just Rogue and Gambit.
That works. That works. Actually, let me see. Cameron asked, "What are y'all's opinion are the worst costumes our power couple wore?" For me, it was the horrible biker outfit she was wearing. For Clark, I can't say. For me, it was the rebirth suit because it was actually I have a statue of the rebirth suit. I'll be right back. But Britt, I like grab that. Give your opinion on the worst costumes for Superman and Wonder Woman.
So honestly, Diana doesn't have bad costumes. I would say maybe the New 52 like Wolverine-esque because of the shoulder pads and the Wolverine knives. That was the only thing that was doing too much for
Okay.
me.
I
I
kind of like
like
that
it,
one.
but I like it, but if you would like take away the shoulder pads and take away the Wolverine knives, then I can make it work. Anything else? Diana looks good in anything.
Hell yeah, she
So
does. But anyway, so here's the
so
rebirth
you
suit.
know,
It's too simple.
and the blue boots,
The blue
like
boots doesn't work. And by the way, in the actual comic, it has little stripes here, but that's it. It doesn't work. It's too uniform with like the small blue cape. It doesn't work.
and what they wanted, with having him, be Superman blue and the blue boots is for him to, of course, the merger and reborn of the Superman Red being New 52. And honestly, that it really just didn't work. It looked like a onesie
Mhm.
drawn in the
It
comics.
looked like
Yeah,
you know what it looked like. You know how to have those like PJs that have the little hatch in the back for when you have to use the bathroom. That's what it looks like.
exactly. Yeah, I yeah, I didn't like that suit. I would say that um I don't like the trunks. Like they need to let
I
those
hate the
go.
trunks. The trunks are just plain stupid.
I understand the iconography of it, but at the same time, like let it go because we are in the modern world and it just doesn't seem like it would be something, you know, to wear for modern day. And especially if you want to modernize Wonder Woman too. It just looks so weird when they have like the Trinity photos. Batman can go either way. Honestly, his underpants, black or gray or whatever,
They kind
it
of blend
goes.
in enough. So it was for the
Exactly.
longest time I didn't notice he had them too.
Exactly. But Superman is just too out there and he looks very old fogey to me, very outdated. So,
Exactly.
he is supposed to be the man of tomorrow. Give him the man of tomorrow suit.
More like the man of yesterday. Dun dun dun. Uh,
Yeah.
John Jones asks, why is it that Diana can upgrade her costume, but Clark and Bruce are stuck with the trunks? Why are they not allowed to move on? Do you think the trunks stupid? Yes. Do we really need them anymore? No. The thing about Superman and Batman is because here's the sad truth. Wonder Woman, it's the problem with Wonder Woman, and I think the reason why DC doesn't give a lot of attention to Wonder Woman and lets people do more of what they want is because DC has abused the character so much that Wonder Woman does not have the sizable fan base that she should. So they're less concerned with pissing people off with Wonder Woman. And by Cameron says, I just thought that Clark wearing armor. It wasn't armor, by the way. When you read the Action Comics run in New 52, they established it wasn't armor. It was just a bodysuit that like read his DNA and that retreated into the S sigil. It actually was not armor.
Right. I don't like when, because it was slick, of course, it's going to be, have that metallic type look, and it fit with the more sci-fi modern day style. So to have a problem with that, again, this is the man of tomorrow. I, I even if it was armor, I still don't understand why it's such a problem. Because you want Superman to be, he's still invulnerable. He's
To everything but magic and
right.
stuff.
So I mean, I would much rather take the armor than the suit that Martha gave. And like we are supposed to understand it's fiction and everything, and you're supposed to turn off your brain on certain things. But for me to believe that that costume doesn't get obliterated like every single day, yeah, it doesn't work within the modern time.
Exactly. The rebirth suit with the yellow buckle and red boots is good. Yeah, that was the good rebirth suit. The original one sucked. I'm like, who the hell designed this? I'm trying to find I'm trying to find the exact panel where they showed him getting the suit because that way I could show you guys. It's not okay, here we go. So if you look here, the way he's holding it, it's not armor right here. Here's the suit. It's not armor. It looks like that because it has the lines, but it's not armor. It's still the same type. It's basically the same type of material he normally wears. It just looks like armor because Superman is jacked. But when Perez rebooted Wonder Woman, she was de-aged and made to look like a new kid on the block in a world full of established superheroes. Should Diana be the first female superhero in the DCU or no? I say either way is fine with me. I do like it where she's not the first superhero because it implies that it basically plays into that whole she's a fish out of water thing.
I say, okay, honestly, I can go either way.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, with her being the mother of superheroes, I she does have to be the first female hero, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's inspiring others. They can be the same age. It's just that she does inspire, you know, you see Superman fans always complaining and making an upward that Superman's supposed to be the first hero. Well, as a male, well, Wonder Woman um being the mother should be, first as well. However,
Well, also it also plays into the fact that these are the same people that say, "Well, Wonder Woman's immortal." Okay, if she's immortal, shouldn't she be the first superhero then?
it, so that goes into a lot of plot holes, and it's very difficult to fill in. So I would much rather for Diana to debut present day and, have that present day timeline. Um, that is why she can be, you know, not so much as the first female superhero. I would say within the formation of the Justice League, yes, she has to be the founder though. for some reason, it just feels like it's a difficult topic with how you want to place Wonder Woman, because either way, she will be diminished, or you feel like she is, you know, being overutilized for some reason, and other female characters are diminished for her. So it's very much a back and forth thing. Um, if they give us a proper story, then I would be able to, make my choice a little bit more clear.
Yeah, exactly. What origin should they use? Either one, it depends on the story.
They should use the clay origin.
Okay.
Why? Because the Zeus origin was technically already used, but again, you have to go back to Wonder Woman's message as a as female empowerment, and her going back to her supporting cast and bringing it also back to the Amazons and Hippolyta. How Perez framed it was an um, an older fan that uh, adores Perez. She said that it's a mother and daughter story, and I think a lot of other Wonder Woman fans have said that as well. And yeah, you need to bring that back of it being that mother and daughter story, and the sacrifice, or that way of motherhood with women, showing that through Wonder Woman in her story, and then bringing in Julia and Vanessa as well. So
Exactly.
definitely have the clay origin, because it shows, first of all, I just love um the metaphoric symbolism that Diana was created, from Earth. So she is a part of Mother Earth, and being that
Of course.
magical being that was life was breathed into her, and then just like I said, just that whole female story is something that we really need.
Yeah, I agree. Cameron asks, how would you guys market the Wonder Woman game? Because with all they're putting out, the game better be worth the wait. They're not putting anything out. First thing they got to do is put stuff out. Let us know about this game, because we know next to nothing about it. And for comparison, we knew roughly what Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League was going to be like by this point.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going for Prince of Persia, or are you going for God of War? So the way those games were marketed, um, I guess that is how you would basically need to market Wonder Woman. I, the way Suicide Squad was marketed, they really had that expectation that it would be the most popular game. But again, you're laughing, but they,
Mhm.
but with Wonder Woman, it is very difficult to market her. So you have to really put in those extra stops, or extra steps, to make sure that it gets at least some decent exposure.
Exactly. Let's see. What's another good question you guys have? Let's see. Let's see. I'm going for some other questions here. Well, here's a good comment. The new 52 redesigns were great. People just hate change. Yeah, that's true. A lot of comic book fans hate change because, as Sam Liu said when he came on the podcast, he said that a lot of people are married to the way DC was when they came into comics, and that's fine, but you just can't. You gotta because people think that like their versions of these characters are the ideal versions. So I'm like, no. By the way, Tevia asked, how would you have Wonder Woman use the Hellbat armor with Superman? I wouldn't, because when Tomasi did that, that was freaking dumb. As I mentioned on my interview with Comic Historian, RIP. Question: when do you guys can? Oh wait, hang on. There's one more I wanted to address before this. How do you guys feel about Wonder Woman's treatment in Suicide Squad? I liked it.
She was the overall hero, and it really showed her power that she can't be brainwashed or persuaded or anything like that. So that was a big up. However,
Plus,
her
they
death.
kind of hinted that she had something with Superman.
Oh, well, it was very ambiguous, but if it was there, that's another big. But also, but the way she died, I didn't like it too much.
I mean, at least it's like she could come back anyway. There's no, there's like 10 different ways Wonder Woman could come back. Question: when do you guys consider that the next Wonder Woman in live action will be introduced? Probably the next 10 to 15 years at this rate.
Huh, very funny. James Gunn said, but of course we can't really take what he said um at face value. He said before 2027, but I believe the timeline is that Paradise Lost is supposed to premiere in 2026, so
But that's not
filmed in
even a Wonder
2025.
Woman thing.
I think that it's going to be a miniseries, and it's probably going to be 8 episodes, and she's probably going to be introduced in the very last episode. Um, which makes sense because if you are adapting like Historia, that makes sense. And yes, do
But
that.
they're not.
Well, what we see is in what
Paradise
um
Lost.
well, they are using the title, but
Mm-hmm.
the way it was described, he said it was Game of Thrones, which I still really don't see the connection there because Wonder Woman's lore in Game of Thrones just doesn't match up.
Well, actually, Brit, it's really simple because you see in Game of Thrones there was a lot of familial relations, and as you know, Wonder Woman's bi because she comes from an island of only women.
Well, I hope they don't be that disrespectful and shallow. Like,
I
no,
know they
don't
won't.
don't do that.
I'm of course joking, but the
Right.
thing is, Brit, is like when you look at it, like even the books that DC themselves recommended, it's Paradise Lost, and I'm like, how you? Diana and Donna both play a very important role in that book.
I honestly think the only reason why they are promoting the book is only for the title. And they are not because Paradise Lost as a story, the comic story, still there's no connection of what this prequel show is about. And I
Hmm.
still maintain the fact that it will be live action. I think he said that.
Hmm.
And I think that it will be 6 to 8 episodes, which is again telling the story of the Amazons. Um, that is why I strongly believe that Diana will have the clay origin because I think it will be in the perspective of Hippolyta's story and the lead up to her, molding um, Diana, you know,
Hmm.
on the beach. So that will be very interesting. If they can execute that, that will be so good. Um, and yeah, we will see Diana. It will probably be rushed, but we will see Diana as a baby, her growing up, and then finally Wonder Woman and leading on to the next chapter.
We'll see. I still don't trust DC with Wonder Woman. I still don't trust WB at all. So that's just me. That's just me. Let's see what's another good question we have here, and keep them coming, guys. You guys are coming up with fantastic questions. Let's see. I'm going back through the chat to see if I could find one that I haven't really answered. Oh, question: do you think Superman would appear as a cameo in the upcoming Wonder Woman game? He can or he can't. There's really two ways to look at that, I think.
Yeah, if it already has the wider DC you, then yeah, sure, it will just be like a little cameo or an
Because
Easter
what we
egg.
know is that she's going back to the island. So she has been off at this point and in the DC universe. So it is possible.
Right. So yeah, it's possible.
Daniel asked that's a really good question. What would you guys do if you were in charge of DC Comics? All right, first off, retcon out all of Rebirth. Let's see and one more day Superman. Get rid of John, put Superman and Wonder Woman together, and tell any of the writers, if you don't want to write this, then don't write for DC because this is the direction we're going with. Oh, and basically tell Tom King, either wrap up your story with the Sovereign and get off the book, or leave now. Either way, you're off the book.
For me, yeah, I would retcon. Well, honestly, Rebirth is already retconned in a way. So I would just reboot the whole universe and just
Yeah,
start over
Flashpoint.
and actually have a clean slate with everyone.
Yeah,
There's honestly, there's no point in trying to preserve what they have now because no one's interested. You're at a point where the stories are stagnant and boring, and even the writers are repeating storylines. I mean, how many times has Batman been broke? How many times has Superman lost his powers or died? Um, John is pretty much irrelevant. They're trying to find a storyline for him. And Wonder Woman, the only reason why Tom King is on her book was for a Trinity babysitting thing. So his story will ultimately be irrelevant later on. Um, so yeah, so that if you bring in writers that actually care for the characters, that actually care for the history that they have, you can start over, but you can also pay homage and, in a sense, even streamline a little bit of the things that are important to them. But I wouldn't have the death of Superman. Honestly, within the new universe, Superman wouldn't die to me because I think that the Doomsday storyline is such a one trick pony
yeah, it
that
is.
it just doesn't
Much
work.
like Dan Jurgens.
Yeah. Wonder
Mhm.
Woman, again, I would play on the fact of her being immortal, but at the same time, she is this global ambassador, and that if you don't want to have her supporting cast stable, her supporting cast to me is the entire world. So you have Diana travel. Honestly, Clark can do the same. Both of them can be travelers. Um, and like we said in the previous episode, is have Clark be a global correspondent and really learn of different cultures and bringing awareness to you can't do too many real world issues, but at least have that acknowledgement there. With Batman, I mean, at a point you do have to repeat the same thing to have Nightwing and stuff like that. But show Batman as like this old man, family man, especially with having Selena, and let him have Damian, but also bring in Helena.
Exactly. Uh, Ira Product says, "What are your thoughts on Black Adam and Isis being anti-Superwoman couple? Isis is Black Adam's wife from 52. Similar to Zod and Fayora. Yeah, I like that because the way they did it in the comics, Brit, is that so Black Adam is like this dictator dude. So he frees Adriana and gives her a part of his powers, and she starts to really soften him. And then when she is killed, he almost burns the entire world down getting vengeance. Like he destroys an entire country. So I'm like, okay, yeah, this is pretty badass.
It works, and of course, yes. Please emphasize that this is anti SuperWonder
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not and not an implication of what the uh, actual couple represents. Charles Soule, we keep going back to that because, of course, it's the best, in the standard of showing how you can do um, the power couple versus the anti-power couple.
exactly. Lord Zed asks, I think that Clark and Diana would have a lot of kids and a really big family, but I struggle with names. What hero name would you give their son without using Superboy? Easy, Olympian.
Um, Hyperman is a good one,
Mm-hmm.
and Supernova.
That's a good
Um,
one.
let's see, that is difficult, honestly. Um, you know, I think that they wouldn't have a superhero name
Okay.
because at that time, I feel like heroes can now be more open with their identities, and so there's no need for a superhero code name, you know. And yeah, so I just really think so. That would be
Yeah.
very interesting.
Daniel asks, who do you guys think has the best human civilian cover? Clark as a journalist or Diana as a diplomat? I think Clark because, and the Snyderverse actually outlined this at the end of Man of Steel, is because he can go to like very dangerous places and parts of the world without anyone like batting an eye because he's a journalist. He's covering this for a story.
Um, it's equal because Diana being a diplomat, she does travel um a lot around the world. So it's pretty much equal, you know, eh, when you explore it right. But Clark being a journalist, um, it just all depends on the story as well, because the way DC has it, it has to veer back to Metropolis, you know. So if you take away Metropolis and then have him as, you know, this global traveling reporter or freelancer, that makes sense. But with Diana, she just have more free reign as an ambassador because she is um more, you know, ingrained within doing things around the world, which was shown in Wonder Woman 170.
Exactly. Now, Britt, I have a question for you. So, as you guys know, Britt and I are co-writing a entire DC fan universe, and Britt told me before we started recording that she had this great idea that she wanted to get a live reaction out of me. So, lay it on me.
Oh, okay. So shout out to Jid for giving me this idea from a Twitter thread about Diana and the patriarchal, you know, type, the the controversy, and
Mhm.
how, again, Wonder Woman, what she means for female empowerment, and how, you know, what we think in man's world, you know, norms of relationships and um how to go about things are different from Diana and her culture. And you know how much I love exploring Clark and Diana's spiritual connection.
Mhm.
So the story that I wanted to do, I am going to do, of course, is Clark and Diana exploring their relationship in a way of spiritual, but also life partners.
Mhm.
And not only that, but also what Jid brought up was how they have children. And the idea of Clark and Diana adopting children around the world, um, and being mentors, you know, to
Hmm.
kids. And also, well, this is kind of a spoiler, so I
Ooh.
won't say it, but it still goes within the way of Diana. If they were to have a quote unquote biological child, it would go more so of a um, spiritual reincarnation, I would say.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, points to you. I'll
I
give you that.
finally I finally got points. Thank you, Jid, for helping me get my points because Jared has had me bawling, you know, always with the cat gif, always with
I love that cat gif.
the guy
It's not a
because
day. It's not a complete day unless I get that cat gif in my DMs.
right, because just when I feel like I have this idea and it's like, okay, I'm gonna send this, you know, and I'm gonna get my points, but also, you know, I'm going to get a reaction from Jared. Even though I do get the reaction, you come back with like something else that's so much of full force. And I'm like, okay, I can't top this right now. I have to think, I have to take hours to think of, some way to top this. And I, have succeeded, but yeah, Jared is still like 2,000 points ahead.
I hate to do
But
this to you, Britt, but
I
I
know
kind of got some.
I know you
I'm going to
do.
get you a
So,
reaction to this live as well. Here we go.
oh, Jesus.
So, as you guys know, the basis of our story is like 2 to 3 stories that we're working on. So this is for story 2. So the antagonist of our story, I'm not going to necessarily, I don't think we revealed who the antagonist of story 2 is, so I'm not going to like exactly say who it is. But this
Right.
person threatens Clark's family. So because I was thinking we could homage a certain Man of Steel moment when Clark flies in, grabs Zod, and starts punching him, saying, "You think you could threaten my family?"
Yeah. I mean, with the story that I know, that we're having, again, you get the points or whatever. I will have an idea in about another couple of hours.
And then what you could
But
also do is that I had this idea where Clark and Diana combo their powers, like he shoots heat vision, then she shoots lightning, and the lightning wraps around the heat vision blast.
just be quiet.
There you go.
That is the only way the Zeus origin lightning powers, it gives Diana, like, I like the God mode. Just like how her being the god of war, it was her mostly wanting to change war and
Yeah,
turn it into her being the goddess of peace. So with the
exactly.
lightning powers, I've used that for Austria, is that she has lightning powers. And I think it's cool. You also kind of have, well, you have her um, bringing Clark back to life with the bolt. So, it is very useful, and especially showing that they're teamwork and that their powers can combine in some way.
Yeah, that's a good one. Who is your favorite Superman artist, and who is your favorite Wonder Woman artist? Tony S. Daniel or Jim Lee?
Dan Mara
Oh yeah, Dan Mara is
and
absolutely fantastic. Sam
Jack
Sam
Herbert.
Pear.
Yes, Jack Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Honestly, Clayman, he
Mm-hmm.
is pretty good.
The hand on the
Ed Benz,
shoulder in Heroes in Crisis.
yeah. Ed Benz.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Ed Banstra draws a sexy Diana.
right. There's also, oh my gosh, I think his name was, I know his last name was Haley, but he drew super, it was kind of like a 70s homage of
Mm-hmm.
Clark and Diana with the perfume line that they had, and they had like a companion comic. But if we were to have like a throwback 70s type comic, Matt Haley, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
his art was spectacular with bringing that era back. Also, I Ivan Ray's his artwork varies sometimes. Kenneth Rockerford, uh, I think that's it that I
Who do I
can.
like? Who do I like? In terms of, well, obviously, again, Jim Lee. I like Jim Lee. I would have to say, in terms of Wonder Woman artists, I do like Aaron Lopresti. He was the artist on one of, for part of the Gail Simone run. I kind of liked how he drew Diana. But really, my favorite Wonder Woman artist is just George Perez. Got it, because of the way.
Exactly.
Here's the thing about George Perez. He's what I call a detail-oriented artist, because when you see what he was able to fit on a comic book page, it's freaking ridiculous. But also, he puts so much emotion onto Diana's face, and I'm just like, I fell in as I was reading that run, I fell absolutely in love with the way he drew Diana.
Right. And Phil Jimenez
Yep.
is good. Uh, there was one that was right in my mind.
Oh, Alex Ross.
Of course. Terry Dodson.
Oh yeah,
think,
Terry Dodson draws gorgeous women.
And of course Jen Patel.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Okay, now I think that's it.
All right. Tavi asked a good question. Favorite Superman Wonder Woman story? Power couple.
I would power couple, but also
if we're talking pre-New 52, I would have to say probably Our World's at War, I would say.
Oh my God, great minds think alike.
Oh wow.
I was gonna say yeah, I was gonna say that. And also Wonder Woman 175. You know,
which one was that?
That is I believe it was 175. The one where Cersei turns Clark into like a doomsday and she fights him in response
yeah. That
to,
was part of Paradise Found. Yeah, exactly. That's a good one. I got one. I was going through my DC universe. There's the Trinity special where like they go into like a dream world, and in the dream world Clark and Diana are married.
Oh, yeah, Wonder Woman 141.
Yeah,
the only
that
thing
one.
The only thing that kind of messes up that story is the ending, because it's kind of like they're both having this dream, but because Clark is of course married to Lois, he has to say that a part of him wants this to be real, but he knows in reality that it's not. And then of course the same writer within the Superman annual after that, it was kind of like they wanted to again have Clark, you know, diminish or belittle his feelings for Diana while Diana is crying, you know, over him, knowing that they shared that special moment together. So yeah, it's some stories that works for Super Wonder, but then at the same time, it has to be some writer that ruins the ending.
I got one for you. League of One.
Okay, well that is more of a Wonder Woman story.
All right.
Superman, he's more of a supporting character, which he honestly, any
They
Wonder
do
Woman,
kiss in that book.
any Wonder Woman oriented story, Superman should be her supporting, um, take a backseat and be the supporting character.
All right, I got another one. New Frontier.
That is a Justice story, but Diana is narrating most of it. So yeah, and you did have the very ambiguous, you call her your best friend, but you kiss, and then Darwin Cook, of course. Why we missed him.
Oh yeah.
The way he drew Diana, honestly, in his style, Diana being buff and tall only works in his style. And you know, it's just I get also the colors really made it so vibrant, and so I can you know, basically vibe with her being that tall and that buff. When other artists try to, they they don't have like this spark of still being Diana.
It's true. The other one that I think we could kind of count as a good Wonder Woman story. Okay, so there was a Valentine's Day special they did during the New 52 where it was Clark and Diana on a date. And it's like they were having
Yeah.
Valentine's Day. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Where like I think it was like Cupid shoots Clark with like a bullet, and then Diana goes, "Oh my gosh, I didn't want it to be this way. If you loved me, I wanted to be of your own choice." And then Clark caught the bullet, and he goes, "Yeah, it is."
Right. Well, New 52 Arrows did not like being called Cupid,
Hmm.
which was so funny because like in story meta commentary, like you having like this beef with your own name is just kind of funny. Um, but yeah, that story, I think it was an homage to um DC Presents 32 when that Arrows he fell in love with Diana, and Diana rejected him. So he um, shot her with an arrow and Clark and made them fall in love with each other. But at the same time, they were trying to um, basically decipher, are those feelings real or not? And there is a moment where in the monologue or the dialogue, they say that perhaps there are some things that are inevitable. And Clark and Diana kiss, but at the same time, it's like this fleeting, you know, we can be a pair if we wanted to. Well, if the writers wanted us to, but we are with, our main love interest. And then there's also a panel where their hands are kind of like they're trying not to touch hands, and they have a very sad look. So I think that story and the young romance story really shows the evolution a little bit more of the classical Clark and Diana's relationship to the more modern relationship of actually having their romance blossom a little bit.
Exactly. Cameron asked, "Do you guys think some people take Diana's princess status too literal because some can't see Diana on a farm?" And speaking as a former Wonderbat, I always thought it makes more sense living in a city. Well, yeah, because here's the thing: when you look at the way Diana grew up on Themyscira, it makes more sense that she would be on a farm, because if you look at, like, it's a very rural area, and she spent a lot of time doing the same like tasks and activities that you would do on a farm, like horseback riding and such.
Right. The only difference of the island and the farm is basically the climate. The island was more tropical. Kansas, you do have the more dusty, uh, sunny type, humid in a sense, uh, country, weather. So that makes far more sense, and especially how that is a familiarity to her of being on the island, loving to um, be with the animals of Themyscira. So she's with farm animals. How much of a nature girl she was with running in the forest. So on the farm, if she wants to, she can go run in the woods or um, spend time swimming in the lake or something like that. So that pretty much is a reminder of home. The princess thing, again, as I said earlier, they do take it literal, but if Diana wanted that princess status, she would have stayed on the mascara.
Exactly. Batman's wife says one of the things that people leave out of Super Wonder is the obvious parallels, like the death of Pa Kent and Polly, the deaths of Donna and Kara having two families, etc. Yeah, exactly. They really leave out, because I've seen people say that like Clark and Diana have nothing in common.
Yeah, they contradict themselves. It's either they are too similar or they are too different. And the thing is, kind of like how Phil Jimenez, when he was doing um, the Batman and Wonder Woman crossover, uh, I believe he added to have their families basically match. He added Artemis or Huntress when I think it was Huntress. And it's kind of like that was not at the time a match in a sense, but it was just like some things to implement Wonderbat, they have to force and change. And what what gets me is that Clark and Diana's relationship is far more natural, and you have the history built over decades. But with Wonderbat, you don't have that at all, and you have to change mostly Diana, uh, in order for her to fit within Batman's world.
Exactly. Tevia asks, last question before I go to bed. If Superman and Wonder Woman do return as a couple in this new Ultimate Universe, what story do you think they will tell? I mean, it depends on like the status quo with Superman and Wonder Woman, but they could just do one of like, honestly, I could see Charles Sewell coming in and like trying to like do the story that he was trying to tell the new 52 in that sense.
Yeah, he did have a Wonder Woman arc um after Superman Doomed. So, but I think it, Tony implemented that also in his Deathstroke run, but I I think that Charles would be able to give his perspective of the um the story, and especially with how he wanted to flesh out Hesha.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that'll be really fun to see that. Yeah, Diana never cared for money. Yeah, that's another reason why Wonderbat doesn't work. It kind of makes Wonder Woman look shallow too. Batman and Wonder Woman barely interact in the 80s and 90s. They should go back to it because now look, now we have Damian teaming up with Diana. Yeah, that is like the most out of left field team up I have ever heard of.
Yeah, it's very much Tom King. He feels far more comfortable even when he messes up the Batman family, Batman himself. He's far more comfortable writing the Bat fam, and especially Damian. It seems like what he does, and he admitted this, is that he it's kind of like he envisions his own sons in Damian and John. So that is what he's doing. I don't think Diana is going to be like the stepmom, but at the same time, he will try to implement like this uh, aunt and nephew type thing because with Trinity, she did call Clark and Bruce her uncles.
Yeah, but it just seems kind of weird. Right, so question. As an established couple, where do you think Clark and Diana would live? One, Metropolis, two, London, three, Fortress, four, Kent's Farm, five, Athens. Athens. I could see it in the Kent's Farm. What about
Where
you?
they would live,
Mm-hmm.
I still think that they will travel around the world. Uh, as a home base,
Mm-hmm.
hmm, I would say the fortress. And why I would say the fortress is because, well, I take that back. It would be the Kent farm if the Kents passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because again, going back to that is Diana having a similar experience as her being on the island and Clark, obviously going back to his roots. And it makes sense. Um, London, honestly, I love Diana being, in somewhere a little bit obscure, but I don't think London really just a home for them, long term. In Metropolis is so overdone. That is why within my stories, I mostly have them if they are in Metropolis, it's more like an outskirts type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And now Athens uh or or Themyscira was that supposed to be?
Mm-hmm.
Not Themyscira, of course. Visiting time to time. Um, well, we do have Greece, for our story. So that works too, given that culture. But honestly, still, I just think that Clark and Diana, because of their jobs, um, they would move move around a lot. And you even have Project Ico, where they are incognito in Japan with their daughter. So, just different locations, different story explorations, you know, that whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's also Gateway City. Yeah. And Atchison asks, and then we'll make this like the last one for tonight, unless we get more of them. Question: even though we know DC would never do it, who would you have inherit Wonder Woman's legacy, Donna or Cassie? That's a good question.
I would say maybe Donna. I don't know if Cassie would want to be Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, they do have the stories of uh like Cassie's generation with Connor and Timm. They are like the set future Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman. But I don't recall that it's been like this important thing for Cassie to become Wonder Woman. I think that Donna, maybe she has a little bit more of, wanting to take the mantle and wanting to protect Diana's, legacy.
Exactly. And Atchison asks, question: do you prefer Clark having the traditional S curl? Or do you prefer the wild and loose hair he had in the new 52? Either way, either way.
Yeah, yeah. Either way, I mean, the curl, it's just going with the showing off the S, Superman or whatever like that. Um, but I like the loose hair, because it just makes him like with DCEU, how Cavill he kind of had it like gelled
Hmm.
to a point of like it seemed like he was balding a little bit and huge cowlicks. Like no, let the hair kind of be free when he flies in the wind or something like that. So
Exactly.
as long as it's not like slicked and gelled like that, either way works.
Exactly. Batman's wife says, keep up the good work, you both of you, and I appreciate how kind and welcoming you two are. We've had minor disagreements, but we understand each other, and I love that. Well, I am going to play a clip for that. Here you go. There you go. So
Right.
I think that's a good place to leave this episode. This was a great Q&A session. We'll be doing more live episodes in the future because these are a really fun game to hang out with you guys. But genuinely, thank you for giving Super Wonder a safe space for Super Wonder, especially with the recent anti Super Wonder propaganda on Twitter. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. We're standing against the
Right.
tide. So before we go to self promotion, I wanted to as you guys know, we implemented a new segment where we give a shout out to a member of the community. This week, we're going to give it to Benny Potter, the comic historian, because if you want to talk about one of the most positive people in the community, Benny was absolutely Superman in real life. Absolutely.
Yeah, and like I told you before we started, the I didn't watch his videos, um but I did know of him. Um and it wasn't until your interview with him that it was like, "Oh, let me go and watch his content."
Still do.
And then yeah, and then when you sent the text um to say that he passed, you had the interview and then 3 or 4 days
A
later he
week
passed.
later.
Yeah, it really kind of like it was so surreal. And it was
Hmm.
like, from hearing how he was so joyful and just so himself was welcoming. And this community as a whole is not welcoming. It is very just toxic, and you feel like you have to, align with a certain group in order to feel safe.
Yeah.
But that is not what comics are about.
Mm-mm.
That, these characters are about escaping the real world and how those expectations are those the same thing that is implemented in the real world, and how we have those type of conflicts and feeling like, in a sense, we don't belong in certain groups and cliques. That is how comic book fans are being. And it's kind of like you are going against exactly why comics were created. So to hear someone that was so dedicated, even if you do have disagreements on certain things, you can agree to disagree civilly. That is what it's about. We all have our own preferences of things, and we all have our interpretation of things, but don't go into headcanon, interpretation, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
But
And Benny didn't. He was like one of those guys where here's the thing. He The thing about comic storying is that he only covered stuff that he personally liked. He wasn't bashing other stuff. He just wouldn't cover it. And I'm like, yeah, don't talk about it if you don't like it.
exactly, exactly. A lot of these fans, especially on Twitter, is that, well, honestly, it is a media thing, period, of if you have a negative, tweet, it is going to get the likes and the comments. And then you are fueling people to start bullying other people. And honestly, why are you bullying real people um, for fictional people? Or even um, there's been fan base beefs with people in music. These celebrities do not care about you. They don't even know you.
Yeah.
So, to even put yourself in that, it doesn't make sense. So for Vinny to be so just this joy, and like you said, he covered things that he liked, and he pushed for, this is what I like. I want to talk about it. I want to celebrate it. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, then by all means, that's you. But for comics, this is for us to have fun. And just the way his laugh too, hearing him on your interview, it was so infectious too. And it was just, I love um other fans that have this positive light within them, and he was definitely a positive light for the comic book community that is actually needed.
That's the thing about comic story. And when I interviewed him, you can immediately detect that. I had known him for probably like a week a couple of days to a week. He treated me as if I'd known him for 10 years. And you can immediately get that, because I was like very nervous that day, because I'm interviewing the largest comic book channel on the platform, someone that I had looked up to for so long, but immediately it just melted away, that nervousness, because it was like he treated it like we were just good friends talking about comic books.
Right. That is how it's supposed to be. You know, I don't expect everyone to be friends. That's especially if you have too far of differentiating opinions. That is totally fine too. But
Mhm.
just having a dialogue, and again, be civil about it. That is what matters. That is what makes it fun. And that is
Exactly.
why these characters are able to, well, they are struggling to be relevant now because of how they have to be stagnant for a certain fan base. But at the same time, if you try to be more open and creative and everything, you give that um, rejuvenation that comics need. And honestly, all of the just the drama of the comic book artist uh, uh, being accused of copying an AI, um, the SuperWonder discourse, just fans being just so hostile towards each other. It's unnecessary. It's no need.
Mhm.
So yeah, so he is one that will be missed because you need more fans like him. and
Yeah.
someone that can truly be a symbol for the true purpose of comics.
Exactly. And definitely still watch his stuff because that way he essentially achieves immortality. And the last thing I will say about Benny Potter is that we say all the time that these are fictional characters, but I would argue that this is the one time where we were incorrect. The thing about Benny Potter is that he was really Superman. Yep, he embodied Superman. Now, last thing I want to do, my good friend Trey posted a similar artistic tributes to comic story, and so what we thought of is like, what would is that? How cool would it be if they actually made comic story a character in comics? Now, I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool if like he was like this multiversal being who just told stories from the multiverse? So what my friend Trey did is she took his logo and took some DC and Marvel covers and put his like head on it, like over here in like the moon. So it's like he's like watching from beyond the multiverse and like telling the story of what Spider-Man or Red Hood is doing.
Wow, that is so sweet.
Yeah, and obviously I have his shirt. And also there's one other item that I picked up recently. So he got to write the backup story of the Bloodshot number 12 comic. And what that is, it basically just recaps the story of who Bloodshot is as a character. And it's pretty cool. The point, and definitely keep watching his stuff because 100% the thing about Benny is he has, I think, over like 4,000 videos. And as long as we keep watching that, he will always be with us. So, RIP, Benny Potter. Thank you for being a part of my life for even the shorter time. I'm very grateful for that. So, Britt, you have any stories you want to promote?
Okay, so of course it's going to be chapter 2 of Shelter and Austria, um, and Hippolyta and Hera. I'm almost done with that. I keep adding stuff, and it's, that's how I do things. And also my Inspire story with Jid. And yeah, I'm definitely going to make you maybe cry or just give me like a million points for this, with the help of Jid. I feel like we can do this. But also but also just the, one shots that I have, and um finally finishing, of course, as always, the stories that I've neglected, and um keeping up the support of the Instagram page. We have now 63 1,700, close to 800 within a week. So, you know, 65,000 maybe within the next 3 months, and then within by the end of the year, 70K is for a ship that is supposedly hated and no one likes or whatever, claimed. 70,000 followers and supporters says a lot.
And I'm putting in the chat right now the link to the Diana and Cal Instagram accounts. You guys can go over and support it. But yeah, so all in all, everyone, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Stay heroic. And remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod. Zois and Maxabat for life. See you later.